I want to inspire kids to want to read. Fall in love with reading, fall in love with books, fall in love with certain children's authors. And you'll be a reader for the rest of your life. You really will. But you have to make it happen. We, as parents and teachers and adults, have to help our kids learn to love books. You've got to be taught to do that. And when they arrived at the tiger, it was feeding time, and the keeper opened the gate to pass in the food, but he slipped, and the hungry tiger leaped forward, looked at the children, and roared. The children shook with fear, the teacher panicked, somebody screamed. Then Isabel's tummy roared. It roared even louder than the tiger, and the tiger backed away in surprise. Keeper jumped up, passed in the food, closed the door, turned to Isabel and said, "Was that you?"
"No, sir, that was my tummy."
Well, the children all cheered and the teacher. I'm Jim McKenna, and I'm a story reader. I read some of the best books that I've ever read in my life to kids from kindergarten to sixth graders. And I try to make them come alive so that kids will want to read them. Well, I was a speech therapist for many years, and I read to kids during my speech classes because I thought, well, that's the very best way to help kids learn speech and language by letting them hear it. So I went to a librarian and I said, I'm going to try to read to kids, but I can't find any good books. So she said, "Sure, come here." And she introduced me to children's books, and everything changed, because when I started reading books that I liked, I had more enthusiasm for the book. I wanted to rehearse it, I wanted to do it right. And the thing that I noticed when I did it was that they were listening, really listening. That's when it started. That's Mr. George Baker. And he's 100 years old, no kidding. And he's learning how to read with all the other grown-ups in room 7. And my room is right down the hall, and I'm learning to read too, but it's really hard. I saw faces that were mesmerized by words, and I thought, wow, maybe I'm not only teaching speech and language, but maybe I'm motivating kids to want to read. So I think schools do a great job of teaching kids how to read. I just don't think we do enough work with getting them to want to read, to really motivate them to want to read a book. You have to remember, authors write for kids, so they put in words that make stories very emotional. Most of the books that I read, I like them because they make me feel something. And if I try to read them correctly, maybe they'll feel them too. Sad, happy, whatever. Because authors do put the emotions in there, and if you don't read with emotion, you're not really reading. You're just saying words. Sometimes I have to make a fool of myself in order to make them laugh, and I'm not ashamed of doing that. I think most adults are afraid to let themselves go and be a kid again, and see it through the eyes of a kid and make that book come alive. Kids know this is a book that makes grown-ups have to say silly things. No kidding. And make silly sounds like, oh no. Here it comes. Glur! Gawako! Magrupadoo! Brug! Oomph! Eev! Blackety, blackety, glibbity, globbity, 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 beep, beep! A lot of times when I've gone to a school and I've come back to that school, teachers will say, I learned a lot the last time you were here, and I don't read to the kids the same anymore. I didn't realize you could do that. You can change kids' lives by doing a really good job with reading. We take it for granted and say, well, I'm just reading words. No, you're reading more than words. Put some life into it. And so that's what books come alive really is. You make them come alive so that it's real. These words are real. And the kid or the person in the book is actually talking. All authors put voices in books, and it's my job to find the voice. Somebody of the Three Blairs is the perfect example of what you do when you read it out loud. Baby Bear points to his chair and says,
It's busted!
so they went into the kitchen and Mr. Blair says, somebody's been emptying the cupboard. Mrs. Blair said, somebody's been raiding the fridge. Baby Blair points at that mess on the kitchen floor and says,
Uh-oh, naughty!
the Baby Blair's voice, that is the punchline. And if you don't do it right, there's no punchline. Try it, see if it works. Try to change your reading so that it becomes exciting. Try different voices. You don't have to do it my way, but find a way that you can do it so that it's exciting. The other hand, I want to make it interesting enough so that they will want to read it. So if it's exciting, I'm going to do some things that are exciting. If it's suspenseful or particularly sad, I'm going to read it completely differently. And I'm going to pause, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to nail them with, here's the line I want you to hear. Boom. In older kids, usually I read the first chapter of the book, just enough to hook them, just enough to say, I'm going to stop here, but if you want to hear the rest, it's up to you. And they were lobbing snowballs over the tree onto a nursing home lawn. Their target was a patient stretched out on a reclining wheelchair. A white sheet covered his legs. Wet slush drenched the old man, and each time a snowball hit him with a thud, the patient flailed his shriveled claw-like arms and screeched, his eyes pinched closed with pain. Hey, quit that, you guys! Trevor shouted, breaking into a run, and in seconds he stood like a guard beside the deformed man. Great! Now we've got 2 targets, Kenny laughed. He flung the next snowball really hard, hitting Trevor in the neck. Knock it off! Yeah? I'll knock your head off, cackled String. You're a dead man! And he threw another bullet that exploded against the wheelchair. But Trevor stood his ground, a human shield. Again and again, snowballs pelted him hard. I remember reading Petey by Ben Michelson for the first time to a 6th grade class. And when I walked in, most of the body language was as I'm sitting right now, arms crossed, head like this, looking at me like, what's this guy gonna do? And you don't have to do too much. You just have to start the book with these kids throwing snowballs at a deformed man in a wheelchair. And then they say, really? And so it goes from skepticism to say, wow, you know? And that's dramatic. That's the book. That's the story. And so Petey is one of those books that really captures them right away. From skepticism to say, wow. What's going on out here? Called a woman's voice. Barely able to see with his right eye, Trevor saw a tall nurse rushing across the lawn toward them. Get away from Petey, she said, and she shoved Trevor away from the wheelchair and she brushed wet globs of snow off the patient. The patient grunted, oh, oh. Trevor covered his watering eye, said, look, some guys were throwing snowballs at this old man. What guys? Well, they're gone now. What's wrong with your eye? I got hit, Trevor said, squinting. The nurse, about the same age as Trevor's mom, turned to the man in the wheelchair and said, was somebody actually throwing snowballs at you, Petey? Aye! He squeaked. Did this boy throw them? Oh! Oh! The shivering patient grunted. Petey's arms and legs can't move, and his speech muscles don't work either, so all he has are vowel sounds. So he tries to say thank you, but all you hear is, ah, and the nurse says, he just said thank you. It just kind of changes the little guy's concept of what's there. There's a real person there. And so he comes back every single day and takes this Petey out to see life. He takes him to a store, to a mall, he takes him fishing. And Petey has never seen a store, never seen a mall, never been fishing before. And it changes his life. And Petey changes Trevor's life. And I tell the kids, and if you read the book, it just might change your life too. That's my kind of author. That's my kind of book. I have never in my life met such fantastic people as children's authors. I think they're doing a magnificent job for education for kids because they're writing for kids to want to read. And that is exciting. They're in it for the right reason, and they're very aware of their audience. They want kids to read, and that's exciting. And I want teachers to realize that and parents to realize the power that the reader has to change people's lives, to make them become lifetime readers. I am always looking for new schools to visit because I know there are kids out there that haven't heard books. They may have read them, but maybe they haven't heard a book. And I'm anxious to find new schools to share great books with great kids. It's the best job in the world because I'm just having fun. That's all, you know. I want you to help me say goodbye.
No,
You can't help me say goodbye.
no,
Why?
I don't want them to go.
Why don't you want them to go?
I like these little monsters.
Don't call them that. Help me say goodbye.
How?
I'm just going to say a few words. When I finish, I'll point to you. You say, goodbye, boys and girls.
That's easy.
Will you do it?
Sure.
Okay, you ready?
Hit it.
Thanks for coming and thanks for being great listeners. Keep reading, everybody. And what? Oh, come on!
What?
You didn't help me.
What do you mean?
I said I was going to say a few words to them.
Yeah?
Going to point to you.
Yeah.
What were you going to do?
Bite your finger?
No! Goodbye, boys and girls.
Oh, yeah. Wait.
What?
You mad?
No.
Good.
Can we try it one more time?
Yes. Hit it.
Thanks for coming and thanks for being great, great listeners. Keep reading, everybody, and
Goodbye, you little monsters.
oh, get out of here. Thanks, everybody. You've been great. Thank you. Bye-bye.